It's going to be Georgia and Georgia Tech in a really big game in Athens. If you like giant betting lines, this is the one for you. Georgia listed as a massive 35-point favorite. It's kind of hard to put that one into words, but this is just uh, this is the second year in a row that Georgia's been a 35-point favorite over the Jackets. It's the first time Tech has played in Atlanta, excuse me, in Athens since 2018. It's the first time that's happened. They've only had their success as a program against Georgia in Athens. In Atlanta, they can't seem to win this game, uh, mainly because Georgia's the better team. But a 35-point line, is a huge just there just does not happen a lot. And I am a little bit skeptical that Georgia is gonna just run up and down the field on Tech in order to score 35 points. Not to score 35 points, but to um, what's the word, to cover that line. I mean, 35, you pretty much, the Jackets would not be able to score. And it's part okay, so these things are not, lines obviously are made the way they're made for a reason. But the other thing that that lines seem to understand that others don't is that what happened the week before is irrelevant to this week. And that's it's always hard to separate that part out, but it's true. And that Tech played as well as they did, upsetting North Carolina, is irrelevant this week going on the road to Athens. I mean, I don't think there's much doubt about who will win this game, in my mind. But we've only seen Georgia play legitimate foes, and have a 30-point favorite be a 30-point favorite a few times. I'm going to go through them here on my screen. In 2018, they hosted Tennessee as a 30-point favorite. In 2021, last year, they hosted South Carolina as a 30-plus point favorite. Vanderbilt in 14. Georgia Tech last year. Um, Vanderbilt in 21 and 22. Missouri in 21. And that's it. So back to back years against the Jackets at such a lopsided number. I mean, I think I just, obviously we pick these games later in the week, but I can't really, in good conscience, and conscience, I should say, I can't really take Georgia right here just because there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, um, it's a lot of points. Secondly, this is a look ahead game. Georgia is going to win this game. So the question is, how much firepower is Kirby really interested in pouring out in a game where they're just going to be, they're so heavily favored to begin with that I think you could see Georgia get up 21 points and shut it down. They don't care. They just want to get to Atlanta, and when they get to Atlanta, they're just going to want to get to the playoff. This game is important. You have to win this game. But no one is going to watch this game nationally. There's not going to be one person that matters that really pays attention to this game. Why? Because Ohio State, Michigan is at the same exact time. And, Georgia, there's so much sort of understood about Georgia's position right now. People say, oh, well, they're the number one team no matter what. They can't not be the one. There's all sorts of stuff that people will say. But the truth is that even though we've got a spread out week, there's a lot of ranked games on Friday. But even though we've got a spread out week, on Saturday at noon, you have these games. And there are four potential playoff teams playing at noon: Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. Now, no one's going to watch Clemson, South Carolina either. Don't get me wrong. But at least it's on network television. So I say all that to say this. My suspicion is that Georgia gets up in this game and they just go on cruise control. Now, the worry you have if you bet against Georgia is that you'll have a situation like the Ole Miss game where Tech doesn't score. They get run up on 42 to nothing. And, Clemson beat these guys by 31 in a game where Clemson just did not look good, and they've continued that as the season's gone on. Ole Miss beat them 42 to nothing. Central Florida, a not good team, beat them 27 to 10. When they fire Jeff Collins, things start getting better. Let's be honest. They take out Pitt, they beat Duke. Obviously, the loss to Virginia on Thursday night. Florida State takes them to the woodshed. The problem for Tech, too, is they can't stop good offenses. Don't confuse Clemson with a good offense. They scored 41. Ole Miss, 42. Uh, Florida State, 41. Miami, who is really bad, scored 35 on them in a win. This is not a good Georgia Tech team. You can certainly see why, um, you know, the betting houses have said, okay, this is going to be, a huge line. Um, for me, understanding the circumstance, I question if Kirby and them are going to. I mean, they're not going to run up the score. They don't do that sort of stuff. If they score a bunch, it's going to be because it happened in a game. It's not going to be because they're lining up like Tennessee a couple weeks ago against Missouri trying to get to 60, and then a week later you get 60 put on you. This is a Georgia team that they understand where they're at, y'all. They that's for another video, I think. But they understand where they're at. They don't need to this is about them. It seems to me more than anything else. That this is about them understanding. Hey, I've got this opportunity in front of me. I'm going to try to take advantage of it. And part of that does not involve rubbing Georgia Tech's face in the dirt. That said, too, this is why this is a challenging line because it's so big. Like if it were 20, like I said last week against Kentucky, I would take Georgia no matter what, kind of. But because it's so not, um, because we're talking about the final game of the season for Tech, almost certainly. I mean, they'll be 5-7. They, in theory, could get to a bowl with a losing record with an APR, with their APR rate. But that's I'm not going to get in all that. But with Georgia, uh, this is a noon game. This is a game where a lot of people, you know, are going to come into the game. They're going to be gone by the half. This is the Thanksgiving game. People don't really think about this game. I think sometimes, unless it's in Atlanta, this game is not as good when it's in Athens, just straight up. It's just not as good you don't get any Tech fans at this game. It doesn't happen. There might be 1,000 because they will not come to Athens. And they're not coming to Atlanta for this game. So I think everything that's wrapped around this game right now is, hey, can we get out of this game with no injuries? Can we, last week was about getting through Kentucky, and for Ohio State getting past Maryland, and Michigan getting past Illinois. You saw TCU. This weekend's going to be different. It's a rivalry weekend. It's about playing, well as the season goes on. The conditions won't be the same this week. That's the biggest thing. Is are we going to sit here and see Georgia play better offensively? We're looking at a little rain, 20% chance during this game, but it's going to be in the 60s, y'all. That day, and that's good. Georgia's not going to play another game where it's freezing cold outside. This is going to be it. And a little rain, I mean, you should be able to perform in a little rain. Now, a lot of rain, that's different. Tennessee second half this season, Kentucky 21, or excuse me, 2019. There have been some pretty miserable rain games. This doesn't look like that's what it's going to be. It's going to be sort of classic November weather in Georgia, where you got a shot, there's some rain, where you've got temperatures in the upper 50s, lower 60s. You've got the beautiful contrast and colors with the bright red against the gold. I mean, this is a great rivalry. But Georgia covering a 5 touchdown line, it can happen. It can happen. That's not going to be the priority for this team. I mean, it's never the priority. They don't look at the line and all this stuff. I mean, they may glance at it. It's hard to miss it these days in sports, but they're not worried about that. They're worried about winning, executing, probably getting to the half with a solid lead, and cruising on into Atlanta. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the site.